Christina is one of our favorite speakers, always brilliant ideas, a thought out delivery, and it is my pleasure to welcome her to give a speech today. Rules for Public Speaking, Christina Willis. Christina Willis, Rules for Public Speaking.
Thank you so much, Carol, for that very kind introduction. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, for this opportunity to speak to you today. I sincerely hope that I will not bore you to tears, especially considering this speech is 3 to 4 times the length of a standard Toastmasters project speech. I recognize that I run the risk not simply of boring you to tears, but of actually boring you to death. I recognize that it is an occupational hazard for public speakers to commit homicidium via tedium, which is well known from the case of Bullshatius versus Fictius in 1934. And thusly, I have made sure that my general liability insurance covers homicidium via tedium. I don't know why the rep at the insurance company hung up on me when I called, but I'm sure it's covered. It's fine. Just please tell your relatives not to sue me if you drop dead during my speech. During my time practicing public speaking, unpaid more often than not, I have learned many valuable lessons through experience, but mostly through screwing up. Screw-ups are, in fact, our best learning opportunities. Sure, it's nice to be able to learn things without the embarrassment and suffering caused by mistakes, but those are the things that help you to remember not to do it again. And it is occasionally nice to be able to say, you know, I am not a screw up, but we know in general that is a big fat lie, because to screw up is human, to err, divine. What follows is a compilation of some of these learning experiences that I have had, and they are written in order not so much of importance, but as of order of learning. So rule number 1, don't write your slides on the plane. Yes, I know you're busy. Yes, I know that everyone does it, and that this is not a paid speaking gig and you're just kind of starting out. That is a great way for you to rationalize not have written your slides earlier. But don't write your slides on the plane. Because maybe if you had rested on your red-eye flight instead of staying up all night writing slides, you might not have caught that cold. Maybe you would have caught it anyway, but still. Because it turns out that that cold was a sign of new learning opportunities to come. Rule number 2, don't drink a Red Bull within an hour of your presentation. Yes, you were jet lagged and had a cold now and you wanted to remain alert. Yes, you got the timing wrong and you thought that you had 2 hours before your presentation, not just 1. Yes, if you weren't exhausted, jet lagged, and sick, you probably wouldn't have mixed up the times, but still, put the Red Bull down. In fact, as you continue your public speaking engagements, long beyond this one and the Red Bull incident, you will learn to simply forego stimulants entirely before you speak, including coffee or soda, because the excitement and adrenaline of speaking is more than enough to get your heart rate up. You don't need help. Rule number 3, remember to breathe during your presentation. You know that you get nerves before you get on stage. You may be talented, but you're still new at this, and it takes a few moments to warm up and get focused on your story instead of your racing pulse and your monstrous social anxiety that is trying to eat you alive like a crocodile that's been starved to make it cranky by the owner of the castle moat. And you drank that darn Red Bull so close to your presentation, and now your heart is pounding like a freight train and you have forgotten to breathe. And worse, the audience can tell this is hugely embarrassing. If you weren't sick, jet-lagged, exhausted, and over-caffeinated, you probably would have been able to hide your nerves like you normally do. But this isn't a normal day, and you couldn't hide it, and you didn't. Rule number 4, don't beat yourself up. Remember what I said about screw ups? I mean, learning opportunities. Well, as it turns out, learning opportunities can snowball in a nightmarish, educational fashion. And they did, such that you got through a 45-minute presentation in only 30 minutes because you had not yet learned rule number 3 on breathing. And now you've broken all world records on how long a human being can go without stopping for air. Yes, your audience noticed. They told you as much at the reception, but they were not mad or accusatory or offended that you didn't put in your best performance and you know that you could have done better. No, they were worried for you. They were kind, as you should be to yourself. And they said that they learned something and that they liked your talk. And isn't that the whole point? Rule number 5, review your flights a week in advance. You might have booked your flights a while ago, and so you've probably forgotten the details. Yes, you have an international destination, and most international flights that you take leave out of Dulles because you live in Washington, D.C. But you forgot you had a layover in Dallas-Fort Worth, and that's a domestic airport. So thanks to your domestic layover, despite your international destination, your flight is actually leaving from Nashville, not Dulles, and you wouldn't want to go to the wrong airport, would you? Rule number 6, leave enough time to get to the airport. Yes, you have in fact not messed this one up yet. Yes, even though it was a 45-minute drive to Dulles and then another 45-minute drive back into town to Nashville, you still made your flight. Good job. But it was absolutely silly for you to take 2 ride shares and drive 1.5 hours round trip to Dulles, the second most awful airport on the planet, when you could have taken the train to Nashville and gotten there in 15 minutes. Yes, you will never get that time back, but remember rule number 4, and don't beat yourself up. Rule number 7, don't answer calls from unknown numbers. Yes, you thought it was your talk organizers because who else in that country would have had your phone number? Yes, it was very scary to have your life threatened by someone claiming to be the mafia, including threatening to have your head chopped off if you didn't stay in your room and send the caller a photograph of your passport. Yes, it's a very good thing that your better instincts kicked in and you refused to send pictures, but instead contact the hotel staff who told you to just hang up. Because ultimately, you weren't in any real danger. It was just scammers who skimmed your number off the cell tower after your flight landed when you turned on your phone. Yes, it is totally understandable that you were scared out of your freaking mind, and it's absolutely not your fault. But still, save yourself the drama and don't pick up for unknown numbers. Rule number 8, be thankful for the immense kindness of your hosts. Yes, you called them in the middle of the night, terrified out of your mind because you thought you were gonna have your head chopped off. Yes, it was super inconvenient for them to show up in the middle of the night. But they showed up in numbers to take care of you. And one of them even spent the night in the sofa in your hotel room, even though it was totally unnecessary, but they did it without complaint because they wanted you to feel better and taken care of. And that is one of the most beautiful gifts you have ever been given by someone, especially someone you just met. Rule number 9. Remember rule number 5. Remember how not checking your flight on the way out caused you an unnecessary round trip? Remember how embarrassment and suffering are supposed to help you remember not to do it again? Well, yes, it was weird that past you, for some unreason unbeknownst to present you, booked your departing flight out of Nashville, but your returning flight through Dulles, especially considering it is the second worst airport in the world. But even after that first kerfuffle, you somehow overlooked this. You had plenty of time initially to get to your flight. You were able to get a workout in, and only then during your cool down did you realize your mistake. Your flight was in fact departing 30 minutes earlier than you thought it did to a different destination than you originally thought. So you had to run like an insane person across the airport and barely make your flight. You are lucky you packed light and that one gate attendant that you ran past begging for help actually understood and called ahead for you. And that prevented you from spending a night in the Dallas airport. Again, the third worst airport in the world, possibly a fate worse than death. Rule number 10, bring the right gear. You know your computer should be in an ancient archaeological museum. You know your computer has only a micro HDMI port, which in fact no other functioning device on the entire planet still possesses. Yes, you thought you were prepared by having a male micro HDMI cable to a male HDMI cable, but what you actually needed was male to female cable or a female to female adapter, and the ensuing kerfuffle has caused you unnecessary stress right before your presentation. You were getting more experienced, and other than this minor glitch, this paid gig went off flawlessly. But you don't want just to be good. You want to be great. You want to experience the preferment of being a sought-after paid professional speaker. And that means showing up with all the gear that you need, including the darn adapters. Rule number 11. Remember rule number 5 and rule number 9. Remember that rule number 9 is to remember rule number 5, which is to check your darn flights a week in advance. I love you. I do. I'm you. But this is something that seems to be a challenge for you. Yes, you bought the ticket well in advance. Yes, there was a crazy technical glitch where even though your purchase was confirmed, your ticket was never issued. If you had checked your flight details before you were trying to go to bed the night before your flight, you would have been able to recognize this and iron it out in advance and have gotten better rest. Which brings us to rule number 12. Arrive at your destination rested. Yes, that might be hard considering this week you have had at your full-time job and this public speaking thing is your side gig. Yes, this seems like obvious and or impossible to fulfill advice, but we have already seen past you does things that present you simply can't understand sometimes, like booking a flight out of Denver Airport. You live in Boulder, Colorado now, which means that it's a 45-minute drive to the airport if there's no traffic, and your flight is leaving at 7 a.m. Why would past you do that? She's well-intentioned, you know that. She probably wasn't thinking about the fact that a 7 a.m. flight means waking up at 3:45 a.m. And she didn't know or wasn't thinking about the fact that your in-laws might be visiting the night before you left. So instead of packing your bags and going to bed early, you were out enjoying yourself with family and not packing your bags. In short, don't ever book flights at 7 a.m. Travel the day before if you have to and take another night at the hotel. Just make sure that you arrive with a good night's sleep under your belt so that if you can't sleep well the night before your talk, you have that earlier night of sleep to fall back on. Which brings us to rule number 13. Try your entire presentation day outfit on when you are packing. Don't just pick the outfit and pack it. Seriously, put the whole thing on. Yes, it's more work and kind of a pain in the butt. And yes, it should seem obvious what you need to pack, but you don't arrive at your destination to discover that you forgot things like the right bra. Yes, you have your more comfy Racerback sports bras with you, but those are meant to be worn with t-shirts. Racerback straps will show terribly with the outfit you have selected and look deeply wrong, not to mention unprofessional. You are very, very lucky that you happened to pack a tank top with a built-in bra that you can wear like a camisole and invisibly fix the issue. But as a blossoming professional speaker, you don't want to rely on luck. Remember rule number 10 and pack the right gear, and undergarments count as gear. Rule number 14. Remember rules 5, 9, and 11. Flights, flights, flights. Gracious, you try your own patience. If you had followed rules 5, 9, and 11 already, you would have realized days ago that you booked the wrong flight home. You would have noticed the date was a week off. You would like to just curse past you for being sloppy, but really she was doing her best. And so were you. So as always, remember rule number 4 and don't beat yourself up. And always remember that most of the time you get it right. I'm being very unfair to pick on you for the mistakes you're making without offering you praise for the times when you got it right. But that's the kind of person we are. We are trying to be better about rule 4. We really are. When you discovered this error late at night before your talk, you were able to solve it by booking whatever you could at a good price and then called your airline to cancel the erroneous return flight. So for goodness sake, now go to sleep. You have a job to do in the morning. Rule number 15, don't stress if you can't sleep the night before a gig. Yes, it is a new bed in a strange city that you've possibly never visited before, and that makes it hard to sleep. Yes, there is a wedding going on in the lobby of your hotel room, of your hotel, and your room is by the elevator, and you can hear the elevator ding cheerily every time it arrives. And there's also a weird clicking noise at apparently random intervals that you can't identify what it is or where it's coming from. Yes, you maybe didn't do a great job of getting rest the last couple of nights, and you are understandably worried about getting enough rest so you can perform well in the morning. You don't want to let anyone down, and you care passionately about this job and this gig. But it's still important to not allow caring to stress you out. You will sleep or you won't, and you'll do best in your morning. You do your best in the morning, and that will be that. Remember rule 4. Rule number 16, be grateful for your audience. Yes, it might be a big sea of faces, over 100 of them in a large ballroom, and that feels intimidating. Yes, they might have been silent as the grave at first when you paused for questions and waited awkwardly for anyone, Bueller, to approach the mic. But once the first question was asked, the floodgates opened. They asked and they asked and they asked, and good and interesting and thought-provoking questions at that. And they laughed at your jokes, bless them, even the stupid ones. And after your presentation, so many of them stayed to talk to you. You're getting good at this, but you still aren't picturing having a small crowd of audience members wanting to talk to you and take pictures with you. Who are you that people want to take pictures with you? That is mind-boggling, but they do. And they tell you the most beautiful personal stories. They tell you their fears and acts of bravery, and they thank you for your talk and how inspiring it was. And that means absolutely everything to you. Because this is the real reason you do this, to help other people and to give them the tools that they can use to make their lives better. Rule number 17, be grateful for your mistakes. Yes, mistakes are embarrassing. Yes, mistakes can make your life harder and more stressful. It's still early days, and you will probably make many, many, many more mistakes as you continue to grow and learn as a public speaker. But each mistake you make is a brick in the edifice of the experience that you are building that is going to make you great at this. So don't let mistakes scare you. Let them inspire you to keep going and to do better. Rule number 18, always, always, always remember rule 4. And finally, rule number 19, don't fly through Heathrow, the worst airport in the world. And for goodness sakes, check your flights. Thank you very much.